Hi, I'm Tanya Khan, aesthetics practitioner by trade, unofficial therapist by accident, and now podcast host. Welcome to Under the Skin, where we talk about the stuff that comes up in my clinic but rarely makes it out the door. For the past 16 years, I've been performing aesthetic treatments on women who just want to feel a little bit better about themselves. But what I found out, it's the conversations that we have that really gives them the confidence boost. So what do we talk about? Kids, divorce, affairs, chin hairs, cosmetic surgeries, menopause, the list goes on. We're going to talk about the real stuff, the stuff that we whisper to our friends, the stuff that we Google or chat GBT at 2 a.m. It's going to be honest, raw, occasionally sweary, but always judgment-free. Because we deserve to feel confident, informed, completely unashamed about who we are and what we want. So, welcome to Under the Skin. Let's get into it. Hi, Orla. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
So we are here today to discuss the very much talked about hot topic globally.
Yes.
About perimenopause and menopause.
Yes.
And I am absolutely delighted to have you on the show.
Thank you.
So for those who don't know, we have Orlaith Logan here, formerly maybe known as Orla McAllister,
yes.
because you're famous for being known on the very famous
Big Brother
yes. reality TV show and other.
That's 20 years ago
shows.
now.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah. This
20?
year. 20 years. Yeah. This year.
Yeah, you still look so hot.
Oh, thank you so much. When I look back in photos, I'm like, oh my God.
Have you brought your bikini with you tonight?
Oh, if only I could fit into it now.
You in your bikini last week when you were on holiday.
Oh my goodness.
You're just back from a holiday.
I am, yeah.
Where were you?
Cruise. It was amazing. I would recommend a cruise to anyone. You've done a cruise before.
A Disney one.
Disney, yeah, that's different.
Not the same thing.
Honestly, we had the best crack. It was just filled. I was like a 21-year-old on spring break.
Who was on it? So taking no kids then?
Oh, no, there were kids.
Were the kids there?
Oh, there were kids there, but I just...
How did they feel
about... sorry, my kids weren't there. Absolutely no way. No, there were other kids there, but not mine.
You just said that you felt like you're on your spring break.
Spring break as a 21-year-old. I partied hard. I partied with 21-year-olds, and they even wanted me to go to the nightclub on the ship at the end of the night. And I was like, I am 46 and I need to go to bed.
Oh, so you're so good. I probably would have went.
I didn't know. It's when the energy goes, that's it. That's it. And I know the reason.
And we know now
prioritizing
sleep
is extremely important. And I think that brings us then into why we're here, because of the menopause. And this is what it does.
You're being very brave. You're going to tell us about your story and your experience of experiencing perimenopause and full-blown menopause at such a young age.
Yeah.
Do you want to start at the start
of perimenopause and not knowing? So Tanya, it was maybe when I was about 36, 37, I started noticing changes on my skin.
36.
Yeah. And it was like, that's really young, but not knowing. Like, I would never have put it down.
So you're saying it started at 36, but it wasn't until years later on reflection you're realizing that it started at 36.
And, my periods weren't regular, but they were still coming. And I suppose, the dryness of my skin and dryness all over, I suppose you could say. But you don't realize that there's actually your hormonal, like your insides are changing, because we can't see inside our bodies. So we don't know what's happening. And
no one's talking about it.
No one, and it's a taboo subject.
Not at 36 anyway. You definitely wouldn't have heard.
No, I wouldn't have. And I would never have thought, it would never have come into my head, because, you just automatically think it's like 55 plus, that's the kind of age that you will go into menopause. And
even then you still don't really fully understand what it means.
Understand what it is. Like, you watch Sex and the City and you've seen Samantha taking all her pills and, trying to prevent it. You cannot prevent menopause. You cannot prevent it. Your body as a woman is going to go through it. No one, no matter how many vitamins you take, no matter how healthy you are, every single woman, my daughter at 18 is going to go through menopause.
Your 18-year-old
my
daughter,
18-year-old, and they don't
and
even
she's going to be
know.
well equipped for it because have you been honest with her?
Yeah, I will. Yeah, open and honest. But they're not educated on it. We're not educated on it. It's like hidden. It's like this hidden secret that should never be talked about. My mum wouldn't have spoke to me about it. I knew that my mum was going through something, but I was in my 20s and I was like,
I just think they're tired.
and we would have laughed at her. Horrible, like to think that I laughed at my mum when she got a hot flush. And my mum would never have taken HRT. That was the big bad word. HRT was a big bad word because it gave you cancer.
And so you said on hindsight at 36, that's when you started noticing
Changes
dry
within my
and
dryness in a lot of places.
which at the time isn't the worst thing.
It's not,
You
but
know, when you think about-
I love my skin and I moisturize religiously, and got me quite down because I would have liked to have wore shorter dresses above the knee. That was not happening anymore. I also felt that, and as the years went on, I kind of got more and more like sleep would have been affected. My mood was massively affected. And you question everything because then you question your lifestyle and what you're doing at that moment in time. Is it to do with that? Am I moody because I'm not training enough at the gym? I'm not getting enough sleep? You know, you question everything else, but you're never once going down the route
thinking
of
that there's something medically
wrong
going
with
on
me
that-
because you don't want to ever think that there's something medically wrong with you. But yeah, and then when my now husband and I we were trying for a baby and nothing was happening. And it kind of
you were coming into the clinic and we were having conversations.
yes,
and you
remember?
were
Yeah.
all loved up and excited. And
excited
you were saying
for the
you'd
next
love
chapter
to have
and
a
seeing
baby.
Yeah. And
I remember you coming in and
I got
saying,
upset and stuff. I remember that. And you were really, really good. And I think because I couldn't feel that I could open up to my family or my friends because people would have said, but you have 2 kids already, so why would you want another one? You know, but it's like I've met the person that I'm going to spend the rest of my life
But it's not really
with.
about your family.
Yeah.
It's about you and the person you're with. But you take that all on board.
And then to find out then that, like, to wake up in the mornings and have to pee in a stick to see if you're ovulating.
But then you said your cycles were getting shorter, so
Oh, absolutely. And
you wouldn't know that that's a sign.
And sex wasn't fun.
Why?
Like,
Why was sex not fun?
We were wanting to have a baby and it wasn't happening. So you were just
the pressure of it wasn't
absolutely.
about kind of what it's supposed to be about. You know, that intimacy
and
the connection.
Yeah, it was
and
for me anyway.
It was like a chore.
I was feeling like, let's just get this done. Let's just pee in a stick and see if I'm ovulating. Let's just hope in a month.
And how long were you trying for?
About 3 years.
3 years. And what age were you at this point?
30, 39.
You see, this
40,
is the thing
40,
that I found with me when I was trying with my husband. I think I was in about 41.
Well, I was 40.
And because of the other children that I'd had and you'd had, you don't think that you're going to stop being fertile.
I know.
I mean, you know it's going to happen at some point.
Yeah.
But you just don't think at that
Not at
time. You still
40.
feel
Yeah.
like you're a young woman,
Yeah.
and that it's actually more about, for a long time, about trying not to get pregnant.
Yeah. Yes.
So you don't
Taking
think
the pill
that
and-
it's not going to
Yeah.
happen whenever you start trying. And then when you find out, for me, when I found out that my cycles were getting shorter, and what that meant was that the egg is supposed to get to day at least 9 or 10,
Yes,
but that's not happening on a shorter cycle, so it's not maturing enough, so it can't be
It can't be
fertilized and turn into an embryo that can then turn into
Mhm.
you know, a pregnancy and a baby. And I remember thinking, oh,
Yeah.
that hit me hard.
Oh, absolutely.
It made me feel old,
It made me feel worthless.
worthless.
Mm-hmm.
Why worthless?
Because I couldn't have another baby.
Because you couldn't make
Mm-hmm.
him a father,
Yeah.
or because you couldn't have.
Well, he had, you know, we collectively have 3 children together, and we're lucky that we do. But when you really want something that bad,
between
and
each other, it's so
yeah.
special.
Yeah. And it didn't happen. And then
But
we were going to go for fertility.
right,
So I was
okay.
on the fertility list. And I got my bloods done. And you have to have a course of bloods done over, it's like you have to have like 3 blood tests within a space of time to diagnose, to see where your hormonal levels are at. And I dropped my son off to school. This is when I was 41. And because me and the doctor had already chatted, female doctor, and she was brilliant. And we had chatted about, right, she'll put me on the fertility list and we'll get a call. And, it was lockdown and everything, but it was still, my name was still on the list. And, and we were kind of like, right, we'll do it, we'll go and we'll see what happens. And I just dropped my son off to school. I was sitting in traffic and I got the phone call from my GP to say that there's good news and there's bad news. And I'm like, right. And she said, we'll start with the bad news. Oh my goodness, sorry. It still gets me whenever I talk about it, but now at 41, your hormonal levels are that of a 50-plus-year-old woman. So you can't have fertility.
We get a wee tissue.
Yeah,
Babe.
sorry.
Oh, God.
And
It's gonna make me cry.
but you just have to accept it and accept that you're not going to have another baby. And I suppose having to tell my partner that we weren't going to be able to have a child, and then he had to process that as well. It's not only me, but he was amazing. And we settled it, and you just kind of have to just move on and take a big deep breath and accept what is, accept what you have, and be happy. And then she said, but we will talk about HRT. That's what the GP said to me.
Was that the good news?
That was the good news. And that was a bombshell. Like, that was literally like, what? Like, what is this? Like, I'm not even in, I've obviously went through perimenopause not knowing. And now at 41, I'm being told that I have no more eggs left. I'm not fertile. And my insides are like that of a 50-plus-year-old woman.
And you're just in a new loving relationship.
Yeah, and we're planning things and we're loving life and we're thinking that, and you just think that it's going to happen. You just never, ever know, and it's so important to, if you're in your 30s and you're not in a relationship, freeze your eggs.
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah.
So do you think that, the whole point of this podcast is because I found out in January, so a few months ago, that I was at the perimenopause stage in my life. And at the start, it hit me really hard.
Mm.
And when I found out all the things through my research that actually could be done, and it didn't have to be this big dark cloud over my head, I was so furious that people are not talking about this, that I wasn't prepared for it. And so I said to hubby, I'm going to tell everybody about this.
Yeah.
I want to tell as many other women so they don't ever have to feel how I'm feeling. There are women who have gone through what you've gone through and didn't know what to look out for, didn't have the support, didn't know to ask for the medical treatment and support. And so I think what I want to ask you is, had you have known about all of that, So we've had this podcast, and
Yes.
it's all gone out, and you're 36, and you're getting the dry skin, and you're getting the other,
Yeah.
the dry vagina.
Yeah.
You're
Let's not
getting,
go
the
there. But we
lack
have
of
to.
sleep, the
Yeah.
low mood, which is
Oh.
obviously one of the biggest things. And you knew, that's me. I
Yeah.
might be in perimenopause, and you went to your GP,
And
and
you
to
were
think you
able to.
could have had.
Yeah.
You
I could
had.
have frozen my eggs,
Yeah.
whatever was left. I could have made plans to, I would have known how to look after myself. I would have been able to not ignore the symptoms.
Yeah.
And deal with it and accept it. But it was just, it was just like as if you were buying something in the shop and being told that, oh, it doesn't fit and that's it, you're returning it and that's it. That's like the GP just is like, that's it. Good news and bad news.
I certainly wouldn't call it
No.
good news. Although what I will say is getting HRT off your doctor, from what I've heard from many of my patients, the fact that they were offering that to you was good news.
Yeah.
I suppose the fact that your age, 36, many people think, and it really shocks me because today, actually, I had about 5 patients this morning, all of which were in perimenopause stage, and 3 of them told me that their doctors refused them HRT because they were too young, and they can't diagnose perimenopause because their estrogen levels were normal. And all of these women were in their early 40s.
Yeah.
Now, from maybe many people don't know, but the way perimenopause works is that your hormones fluctuate.
Yeah.
So you could have a good day, normal day, and then the next day, it would be low. So what I don't understand is there's some doctors are saying we can't diagnose it because the blood tests don't diagnose, and they're right in saying that.
Yeah, it's the
because the only
levels.
way you could diagnose it is by doing the blood test every day for a full menstrual cycle to see how much it dipped.
Yeah.
And they're not doing that. You can't even get a blood test for 3 weeks these days. So do you know what I mean?
Well, my periods had stopped. They have to. So what you're also told, even if you miss a period, and which I don't agree with either, is that you're told by your doctor that you have to have a year of no periods.
Yeah, that is
Right.
the full year of no periods.
If you're missing a period for 3 months, why am I missing my period for 3 months? And then it comes again, and then it doesn't come again for another 3 months. Why can I not go on HRT? Why can I not have something?
But this is actually, it doesn't matter. You didn't have to even wait until you didn't have a period for 12 months. So that's you officially entering menopause. Perimenopause can last between 7 to 15 years before you go into menopause. And it's at that point you need to be on HRT. This is the thing that people don't fully understand. So there was a study done in 2002.
Yeah.
I'll keep this nice and simple.
Okay.
And this study was misinterpreted. The findings were misinterpreted, and it spread like wildfire in the media. And basically, the women who were on estrogen and progesterone, they found that there was an increased risk in breast cancer. Now, the risk was 1 in 1,000.
Yes.
And the women, the average age of the women in this study, are you ready for this? 63.
Yeah.
That's not perimenopause stage.
No.
They are full-blown in menopause.
Menopause. Yeah.
And obviously at that age, women are more at risk of breast cancer, regardless of whether you're taking HRT or not. So there is an abundance of evidence out now showing that there is little to zero risk. I need to get the studies and the actual facts. That's for another podcast.
Yes.
But yes, there is very little risk, if not zero risk, depending on family genetics and obviously in history of breast cancers, of when you take your HRT. So that's hormone replacement therapies for people who don't know.
Yeah.
So that would be your estrogen and your progesterone. And under the age of 50, there is little risk. Under the age of 50, there's little risk. So for, let me do my maths, 23 years, we have a quarter of a century almost. And today we're still believing this.
Believing it. I had
information
on my breast, and I was advised, I was red flagged to the city hospital, and I wasn't able. I was told not to be taking HRT until the scans, if they were clear and whatever. So I went, a male consultant spoke to me after and said, I wouldn't advise you to take HRT. You're too young.
What age were you?
I was 42. And I went, I'm in menopause. I'm not in perimenopause. I'm in menopause.
But you didn't believe you.
And I have so many symptoms. And all I needed to know today was that I don't have breast cancer so that I can take HRT. And I am going and I'm getting my HRT because I need help and I need everything balanced. And starting the HRT, honestly, I could not recommend it enough. If you can take it, take it.
Because we have
an absolute godsend to my life, my body, my relationship with my children and my family and my husband and my work life, everything. With HRT, it just changes everything.
Can you explain that just a little bit more, what you mean? Because I know we've had conversations, but just specifically where you were at before you started taking HRT,
so
where your head was at, the problems it's created in your life and your relationships.
So my, before I started HRT, I was erratic. My behavior was erratic. My moods were just, I look back on it and be like, how was that me? Like even to the point of my kids leaving a spoon in the sink. And I would have just went crazy. Like, why could you not have washed that? Like just shouting, just crying, being emotional. And it's that fluctuation of 1 minute you're up and then the next minute you're down. And it can happen in the same day. It can happen in the morning time, you're up, you're happy, everything's great. One wee thing, a spoon in the sink would have set me off. Boom. Everyone was getting it.
And did it lead to bigger problems in your in your relationship with your husband?
Well, we weren't married. We were engaged, and I was erratic, and it was in lockdown. And I moved out of our house, and I went to rent 4 minutes round the corner. And for me, it was needed. For my head, it was needed. For our relationship, it was needed. And for my children, it was needed because I was not balanced. My whole brain function, everything, and obviously my whole body was not level. It's
quite a common occurrence,
It was extremely, looking back on it, I was a very different person to what I am now. I was
now on your HRT.
Honestly, as I say, it is like it is the pill that saves everything. Not everything, most things, most things within me as a woman, and what I needed to do for me. Energy levels deplete. You lose your confidence in yourself. I lost my confidence in absolutely everything. My work, I wasn't happy in my body, the changes that it does to your body, and to be this fit, gorgeous gym goer. Oh my goodness, I'm this big blonde, lovely, have abs, everything going for me. I think I'm amazing. To totally no, you don't have abs anymore. You have a bloat at night.
I've seen you in a bikini on your Instagram last week.
It's not like the way
you still have abs.
It's not like the way I was before I was in menopause.
Because what we're getting is the menopause belly. We're getting that fat that we can't lose. And what many people don't know is that fat, it's not the fat that you can lose by a calorie deficit or exercise. And that's fat that sits under our skin. Yeah. This is fat that sits around our organs. And when your estrogen levels go down, it goes up and you can't get rid of it.
And it just sits right there. And I never had that. I wear a lot of black, but I call it menopause black. And I mean, my whole wardrobe, I used to wear pink. I used to be like bright. And it's not that I'm not bright. I just love black now. I'm a black. And I laugh about it now and call it the menopause black, but everything, my gym gear is black.
It's because it makes us look skinny.
And that's it now. It's like it hides the bloat. But do you know, I've accepted it. Now my body shape has changed And, you know, I've got the wee love handles even more than what I did. And I go to the gym, I do my cardio, I do my weight training is so important for our bones.
So yeah, let's tell people.
We don't know
if
about
you
that.
don't do strength training, and I'm trying to get there because I'm
You
not
will
the
get there.
biggest exercise. I'm not going to lie. I don't like exercising. So
Yeah.
I am trying to get there. And we actually got rid of our sofa in
Good.
our living room, office/living room, and got like a weights.
Oh, very good.
I don't know what it's a weights machine. You know, the one where you pull the cords.
Yeah, yeah.
And the weights lift. So yeah, I'm doing a little bit. It's just it's having to get into it and make it like part of a priority.
It's your routine. You have to, and it is a priority in my life, and I've always made it a priority.
But yeah, if we're not, we're going to lose 10 to 15% of our muscle mass permanently, and that is important because our bone density is so reliant on that because it's called the musculoskeletal system. Yeah. So if we maintain the muscle mass, we'll maintain the bone mass, and the opposite if you don't. And that's important because then you'll end up with osteoporosis.
Which is a massive, like not even knowing about that. You know.
I did. I literally only found this out a few months ago. I'm like, what? Yeah. Babe, I need protein. But I don't like shakes. Protein. So we said you can get a protein water, and it's like a lovely protein, apple blackcurrant
creatine juice. You know, and we need to be taking this. We like our bodies need it. You know,
but we need to be taking 1 to 1.5 grams per kilogram of weight. I'm not getting that in my diet. And lots of people are vegetarians. So, you know, that's why I supplement with protein waters.
Well, I take protein shakes like full on. I take my creatine to work with me. And people are like, why is your cup of water blue? And I'm like, that's my creatine. It's my saving grace. My cup of amazingness. But honestly, it's a very strange
transition.
Yeah. For the whole of me, just me, because no one else. So my kids don't get it, right? My husband doesn't get it. He's a man. I think my dog might get it because she doesn't like to see mommy upset. But in myself, I am the only one that can research it. I'm the only one that can do the work for me.
This is key. So you need to, this is the thing I get so upset about as a nurse. I'm working in the medical profession. I actually think that it's the NHS's job and the government's job to be educating women about this.
Absolutely.
And it's sad that we do have to do the research, but I am willing to do the research and I understand the evidence because that's my background. But many people, even if they do the research, will still find a lot of it's over their head.
And a lot of people will try and put negative stances on taking a tablet or putting a patch on or
being a martyr
or and all these health benefits of going down the natural route. I am so sorry, but I have, even before I before I went on HRT, I was taking the perimenopause from Holland & Barrett, right? And you know, the wee supplement tablets, and I'm like, you know, thinking this is going to work, this is going to help me, this is going to help me. No. Supplements are good, yes. Vitamins, all of that are great, but you need HRT. Women need to be on HRT for so many reasons, like the osteoporosis, like everything that we're going through in our bodies.
So shall we just rhyme it off? Estrogen is a powerful anti-inflammatory.
Yeah.
So whenever your levels are low, your body is going to go into, when they're low for a long period of time, they're going to go into, your body's going to go into a state of chronic inflammation. And that is going to cause your cholesterol to go up, no matter what you eat. The visceral fat we were talking about, that's going to go up. You're going to have potentially cardiovascular, so like heart problems. You are at risk of developing becoming insulin resistant. So that's becoming diabetic. You are at risk of having early onset dementia. You know, there's a strong link between menopause, perimenopause, and Alzheimer's. Gosh, there's so many other things. Autoimmune disease. So more women are diagnosed with autoimmune disease, and it's linked to that chronic state of inflammation. And the one thing that we're really worried about is cancer when you take HRT, so they don't take it to help their symptoms and to prevent all these other problems later on in life. But actually, when you're in a chronic state of inflammation for years, that's the prime environment for cancer to grow.
Yeah, it is. And it's so like when you do your research and you're medically trained as being a nurse, so you know more of the medical terms and terminology
What's actually
of it
going
all.
on.
Yeah, what's actually
in
going
the
on.
body.
I read what I understand on Google, on like watching Davina McCall's documentary, which was absolutely amazing. I actually cried because I knew that I was in that and I knew what I was facing. But there is the positive from it because you have this menopause glow. Once you take your HRT, you get this glow.
Get your skin back.
And you do. And you're kind of like going, there's like people are going, so what age are you? And I'm like, yeah, I'm 46. No, you're not. Yeah, I have an 18-year-old. Yeah, I have a 16-year-old. Like you cannot be. And I'm like, well, I am, and I'm proud of it. And I'm in menopause. I tell everyone that I meet that is willing to listen, I am 46 and I am in menopause. I wear that badge with pride because it is something that you should be proud of, that you have got to this stage in your life and you can still get through it. There are so many women out there that go down the route of depression with it because they do not know where to go to. They are being told by a GP who is probably many years younger than them or doesn't understand it or hasn't done the research. And, and they're probably being told, no, you don't need anything. No, your bloods are fine. No, everything's okay. You're fine. And they don't have the money to go private, And where are they? They're just stuck in this rut of not being able to know what their body actually needs.
Talking about, going into a state of depression. So I had a patient in this morning and I was saying to her that I was recording this tonight. She said she couldn't wait.
Yeah.
That she herself had serious brain fog, like to the point she was really worried that something was wrong and went to the GP. And then she started having other symptoms. So she was having issues with sleep and she was having joint pain. And the male GP on the phone had said, actually, this could be perimenopause. She's 40 years old. So she gets her bloods done and then she goes to an appointment with a young female doctor. She said she looked in her 20s. And she said, oh no, your estrogen level come back normal. So, you're not perimenopause.
Oh, right, okay.
And she went back a few times. And I think on like her second or third visit, the GP had said, we can refer you to psychiatry if you want.
Yes, that's happened. That's been told to me.
Did it?
Yeah, the cognitive therapy.
Cognitive behavioral therapy, yeah.
And you
because treat the symptom, not the cause.
You're sitting in your car and you're kind of listening to this and going, oh,
and it's a little bit of unintentional gaslighting.
Is there something wrong with my brain?
No.
Is there something wrong with me? Am I really that crazy?
And we're laughing, but that's
no,
scary.
But it is. But for me and myself, when that was said to me, I was like, why? What? Why?
Why do I have mental health issues?
But it isn't a mental health. It's every single woman is going to go through it. So we're not classed in the mental health kind of sector. We are in menopause.
Yeah,
that's it. So put us in the menopause.
So this is a really important point I want to make. Through my research, there was there's been lots of studies, but there was quite a big one that showed in the last couple of years that showed that women who had suffered from mental health issues and who already were on an antidepressant or some form of medication, who had to have it increased during the perimenopause stage, when they commenced HRT, they were able to reduce their dose, but also reduce it to even less than what they were on before they had to have it increased. And the women who didn't have any mental health issues prior to experiencing perimenopause, who then went on to develop mild depression or it can make your bipolar worse. It can actually bring on bipolar. There's so many other things to talk about with regard to that. But these women who only experienced them when they went into perimenopause, when they commenced HRT,
Yeah.
their symptoms were alleviated completely,
Yeah.
and they were able to come off the medication completely.
So imagine if those women had have been given that before or during the process. You know,
But this is
so
the
many
problem. I went to my
studies.
GP, and my GP was brilliant.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. We'll do the blood test, but you're 45 next year, or so, no, this year. You're 45 later this year. Oh, I wish it was next year. But we'll not argue over the blood test because
Yeah.
given the symptoms and your age, it's likely that you're in perimenopause, and we'll start you on the HRT, but we'll just do the blood test anyway.
Yeah.
And at the very end, now bearing in mind, I'd only kind of really been experiencing this for a couple of months, this particular symptom,
Mhm.
and it was a low mood. I would say it was more flat mood than low, but it probably would have gone that way.
Yeah.
And she said to me, have you considered taking anything for the depression?
Oh.
And I said, no, sorry, let me reword that. Have you considered taking anything for the low mood? And I looked at her and I said, absolutely not.
Yeah. Because then you're being
I'd
put in a
rather treat the
bracket.
cause than the symptom.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I thought that was a really great GP. And
Yeah.
I just thought that worries me a little bit because there would
'Cause
be
it's
other people
easy.
who are not as educated
Yeah.
who would be so desperate to feel better. He would
Yeah.
say, yes, I'll take anything.
Mhm.
And that's
But
not
that is
the right
so.
course.
At one stage, I remember my previous job that I was in. I went into the office, and we were mainly female team, and there was one guy, all of them, and I just sat down at the desk, and someone asked me how I was, and I just started crying. But I knew that I was low mood, right? So now I'm on HRT. This is only last year. And I knew that my mood was really, really low. And I was exhausted, like the exhaustion, and working full time, running a house, you know, everything. And I made an appointment with a private GP, female, who specializes in menopause. Blood's done. Maybe four days I had to wait. She rang me and she said, now at that stage I was taking a tablet and rubbing gel into into my thigh. And she said, Orla, love, your hormones are in your boots.
The gel
And
wasn't working.
the gel wasn't working. The wee tablet that I was taking wasn't working. I'd already been on the patch before. That wasn't working. So that didn't work. So then the tablet and the gel didn't work. And she said, right, I'm going to put you on this tablet for HRT. And this is great. And this will get everything moving in the right way that we need it. And it was, but you see, to hear, I knew in my body was not right. My mind was not right. Everything was low. I was crying. I cried in my office, in my work. I was sent home, which was great, but I didn't feel good in myself. It was like, where do I go from here? What is
We're
wrong
so
with me?
reliant on these hormones.
Yes. And when she gave me that call to say, I knew then that it wasn't a mental, that wasn't me overthinking and thinking, I'm making this up. Like, I'm making this up. It was my hormones to say that for her to say your hormones are in your boots. It was a relief.
It was, yeah.
It was a relief because I was like, thank God, and this is not me. It's just not working.
I just need my medication tweaked.
Yeah. And I got it tweaked, and whoa, did I feel amazing. Now I had to let it happen for a month to get into my system and all of that. But whoa, did I feel even better to know that I have done something. I listened to my body.
Do you know what? On that point, that's funny. I was talking to my husband in the car on the way up here, and I was telling him about the patients this morning where one had said that she'd gone about 8 times, said can't diagnose it, and that she had to go and pay privately. Like, this should not be the case. But he had said, but what if you've got hay fever? Is there a test for hay fever? Or do they not just go on, that time of year, pollen count, the symptoms? Yes, it's hay fever.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, babe, it's the same for like a UTI, like a urinary tract infection.
Yeah.
It's like they'll give you the antibiotic based on your symptoms. Yes, they will do a test to confirm and make sure that the antibiotic they gave you is going to kill the bugs.
Yeah.
But yeah, they go on your symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
So why is it so hard to listen to women telling you that their bodies are talking to them? They're telling them something's not right. And they're still saying, no, we can't diagnose because your estrogen's still normal.
And do you know why it is? It's money. It comes down to money. It comes down to cost within the NHS and the government. They just want to hide it.
If it was a man issue, do you think it would boil down to
Oh,
cost?
absolutely not. Oh my goodness, no. And I don't want to get into that, men and, this and that. We are women. There's so many of us in the world. We need to be treated with respect in terms of menopause. Money needs to be invested in menopause for women. We need that gel. We can't not everyone can go out and afford this amazing gel that Davina McCall talks about in her documentary that is not prescribed.
Yeah.
You have to buy it over the counter. Not everyone can afford that. So at one stage I couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
How am I going to budget?
And it's not even that there. It's about the education for me. Even if people could afford it, they wouldn't know what to buy. But I just think that this is all being, I really hope that the information that, we've talked about today and you being so brave and transparent and open about
I hope
everything, that we can help a lot of women.
Everything is within reason. And if women just look after themselves before anyone else, if you wake up in the morning and think about you,
they need to prioritize themselves.
I wake up at 5 a.m. I have my coffee. Me and my wee dog sit together. She has her breakfast. I have my coffee and my bagel, and that's my time. That is my time.
And that's so important.
And
that sets precedent for the rest of the day.
Does, definitely. Yeah.
Listen, Orla, thank you so much.
Thank you. Sorry for the tears earlier, but...
And yet you still look beautiful. It just added to your glow.
Yes, it did. It's the menopause glow.
Thank you, darling.
Thank you.